Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. Today, we have a special guest with us. Someone who has been not only a dedicated service member, but also a lifelong friend of mine. Marilyn Richards served alongside me in the military. And over the years, she has accomplished so much. Not only did she serve in the United States Navy, but she also served in the United States Air Force. Marilyn has dedicated herself to advocating for the betterment of military veteran lives, ensuring they have the resources and support they need as they transition to civilian life. Marilyn is the founder and owner of TANGO SIERRA, ETS, where she wears multiple hats as an author, speaker, vlogger, blogger, and career coach. Her passion lies in delivering personalized career services to transitioning military members. And she provides a wealth of valuable resources to enhance their overall well-being and quality of life as they navigate their post-service journey. The inception of TANGO SIERRA LLC was driven by Marilyn's deep commitment to supporting veterans. Having personally experienced the challenges of separating from the military, not just once, but twice, she recognized the urgent need for a comprehensive and tailored support system for veterans. She knows firsthand the confusion and uncertainty that come with transitioning out of the military, wondering how to interpret all the information from TAPS class, how to write a resume, how to translate military skills into civilian terms. In 2005, she faced these obstacles alone, and it eventually led her to work as a contractor on an Air Force installation, marking the beginning of her journey into federal contracting and employment. With over 20 years' experience, Marilyn has since dedicated her career to helping service members transition into their next chapter, regardless of the industry. Marilyn Richards is truly a force for positive change and an advocate for veterans everywhere. We are honored to have her here today to share her journey and insight. Thank you. Marilyn Richards.
Yay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. How are you today, Marilyn?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm really, really good. I'm happy that we have this platform to be able to chit chat and get to more people for what you're advocating for veterans and things, which is great.
Yeah. Of course, you and I, being veterans, we understand the difficulties of transitioning after service. And so I do what I do because I, personally have experienced the heartache and the disorientation of transitioning and adjusting back to civilian life. So I'm ready whenever you are.
Yeah, I mean, we can get right into it if you want, but I mean, the transitioning, I had the same experience that you did, which most veterans have of transitioning from the military structured life to the outside kind of free-for-all world that we could get back into as civilians.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I wanted to know a little bit, I guess, not just me, because I really know a lot about you because we've been friends for many, many years. I think over 20 years now. I want the audience in the world and people out there to really get to know who you are. So I want to know, can you tell me about like your upbringing and what your life was like before joining the military or even thinking about the military?
Oh, yes. So I grew up, I'm born and raised in California, been a West Coast girl my whole life, and I moved to the Midwest 5 years ago. So it was, talk about adjustment.
Right.
Quite an adjustment. But I grew up in California, and my dad being a Vietnam veteran, both my dad and my stepdad were both military. They were both Air Force. My dad, he has always, never shied away from sharing his story. He's one of the very few Vietnam veterans that were not afraid to share his career and his life story and the heartache and the pains that he's struggled with in his life of service. So he's been one of my major influences in joining the military. The only reason why I joined the Navy was because my twin sister Marissa, she wanted to join the Navy, and I was like, well, why don't we go together? Let's go together. We're gonna graduate high school anyway, and so let's do it together. And that's what we did. We went to boot camp, and then she got stationed in Hawaii, and I got stationed in Bremerton, Washington.
Wow, that's actually really, really great. But I mean, now we're talking, since we're talking about like the transition and stuff, now I knew your sister was in, and I knew she was, in the service also. But how was that, being that you grew up together? You guys probably did everything together as children, and I know you have your own thought process, and she has her own thought process. When you guys came together and said, I'm going to join the military, how was that conversation?
My parents were very supportive. My mom, at first she wasn't sure. My mom is Filipino, both my mom and my stepmother. So growing up in a mixed household with Asian parents can be a little stressful and daunting at times, especially because of the differences in language and culture.
Okay.
And so my dad, of course, wholeheartedly supported it, and very proud to have served in the military. It wasn't until later on where my mom was like, "Oh, my daughter is in the Navy." Oh, I'm so proud of my daughters. They're in the Navy. In her Filipino accent. From what I can remember, it was we prepared this summer. We went and actually joined a gym. We talked to a local recruiter and joined the gym, preparing ourselves for boot camp. And so we were already given the heads up that it was going to be, a different mindset shift. They're going to play mind games on you. You just got to adapt and overcome and endure the process of it, because the military is a place where they train you into being this, what I like to call super soldiers, because that's basically what they're doing. They're breaking you down into the person that you are, into someone that could be better and better to fulfill the mission that you've been called to do.
Right. And in life we don't see things like that, but the structure that they're giving us does on some points transition to our regular life, like the waking up in the morning and cleaning and doing things at home that we do in the service also does kind of transition. So those little things stick with us.
Absolutely.
I had another question about you had spoke about your family and your friends and your sister and things with the decisions that you made during those times. Didn't you have a kind of like a career mind of what you wanted to become? As kids, we always say, "Oh yeah, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a police officer." Did you ever have that before you enlisted, of a totally different path of your thoughts of what you were going to be when you got older?
I loved drawing. In high school, I did a lot of poetry and painting and drawing. I wanted to be a Disney artist. I thought being an animator was like so cool, and I wanted to work at Disney, the happiest place in the world, because I do come from a traumatic background and from a broken childhood. You're always looking for that safe, happy place, and Disney was it. I wanted to be at Disney World, where it was like the place where you could be happy and safe.
Right. And that's what we look for as children, because we're growing up in those ages of, safe, happy places. And that's why some of us find our friends outside in the streets. Some of us find, comfort at home. And like you wanted to be in Disney or do the Disney stuff. I bet you your recruiter told you, hey, you can see Disney from ship. But I mean, that is a great mindset as a child, to say, hey, I want to be an artist, or be involved in such a big, business of a Disney.
Yeah.
Um, so this brings me to your life now. I mean, your life now I know is different than what it was in the military. What was your initial experiences like in the Navy? Like, do you have any memorable moments that you had that kind of like built your experience and made you think of the Navy in one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, so the first 2 years were amazing. I loved coming in. We came in at a really great time. This was still in the 90s, still, 9/11 had not happened yet. And so it was such a culture shock. And I just remember with us being a co ed installation, everything was new for us. We were all like coming in from uh, just be our basic backgrounds growing up. So I think we had a really good group of people.
From all over the country too, all over the country, and sometimes you get people from all over from different parts of the world.
Yeah. And so I think that overall, just the being able to acclimate together and work together was I had a good experience the first couple of years. Integrating together was great. A lot of the guys that have been around for a long time, they took me under their wing and started teaching me, things, and, doing maintenance actions. And for those who are listening, I worked in the V2 division, which is part of the air department. When you're stationed on an aircraft carrier, there's 4 divisions, and V2 was known as the loss and recovery division. It's a very intense and high ops tempo way of life because you're dealing with catapults and arresting gear. So if anyone has ever seen Top Gun, like the little slingshot that shoots the aircraft off the flight deck, that's what I worked on. And so it was very laborious. It was very arduous.
Dangerous, very dangerous too.
Oh, being on the flight deck, of course, is very dangerous. Like our air boss used to say, you always had to have your head on a swivel because you just never know what's going to happen. And that's true in life. You always have to be aware of your surroundings. Not in a paranoia kind of way, but you always want to be vigilant and intentional when you're in living life, right? So my job in the Navy, I went in undesignated. I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do.
For the people out there that don't know what undesignated means, can you give them a little bit of a explanation of what that means?
Okay, yes. So my sister and I, we did not choose an area or career field to focus on. We went in undesignated, meaning like we can go anywhere once we finish boot camp, and once we've decided what area we would like to work, then we can work towards that goal of getting certified or qualified doing that job.
Okay. So all you guys and people out there, it's kind of similar to you working at a Walmart, and you want to work towards the supervisor position, or you want to work towards electronics department.
And then you work your way up.
You work your way up, right?
You start at the basic level and the basic position, and then you earn your way, or you work towards that of getting promoted.
Now let me ask you a question. Being a woman, and laws have changed dramatically throughout my parents' days, your parents' days, and us even getting older. We're not young chickens anymore, as I like to say. But as a woman joining a service that in the past has had the bad rep of that we go out there and kill babies and children and and things like that. Being a woman in the Navy, how did that shape your experience and dealing with people and stuff like that while you were in?
Well, I mean, it all started from home because my dad was called a baby killer when he came back from Vietnam.
Right.
So come back and our society has changed dramatically since then. And, for him to experience such hatred by his own people, kind of mirrors why, Jesus was not received by his own people either. And, that's the most hardest feeling to accept, is like being rejected by, people that you love, and
Right.
you served your country, and then your own country spits on you. That's very hard to swallow. And so my dad's influence and his story really helped. It's his generation that helped break the first barriers. Now,
Yeah.
coming into the military as a woman was very much of a culture shock. But I knew what I didn't really know what I was prepared for or what I was going in for. But it was what I would like to sum up as a great once in a lifetime experience. I did not have the last 2 years on the ship were not good. As a matter of fact, it was very traumatic for me. And so I decided not to continue and make it a career. But if I had the right people around me, if I had mentors and good leaders around me, instead of a toxic work environment with toxic leadership and poor morale and long hours, working. I used to work 22 hours every day we were out to sea.
Yeah.
That's what that's called in the aviation world. That's a violation of crew rest.
Right.
But back then, we didn't have the quality of life that, since 9/11, the structure and the way the military does things. I'm sure they've made improvements since then, but it was just a way of life. You just suck it up and you just move forward. You continue the mission, you suck it up, and you deal with things later. And that's the attitude that I adopted, the suck it up mentality, which is great for hostile situations, but is not healthy when you're trying to adjust back into civilian life and you're just trying to find purpose and direction again.
Yeah, that's I suffered when I came out. I suffered. I had a death in the family and things like that. But and then I started. I built my own family, which went awry later on. We ended up getting a divorce. But we we come out of the service with these experiences, and we don't see that what our parents have embedded in us carry over. And then when we're there, we kind of like amplify it, what we've been taught, and then we make it a little bit better in the service. I mean, when I came in, I think there was just bringing women into the service.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were just bringing women into the service, it was an adjustment period, of course. And being that we're coming from the streets and we're just coming across, now we're in these confined spaces with these women and men and things like that. It's like, okay, there's an adjustment here. We got to figure this out.
Right.
And it's the suck it up, like you said, it's the suck it up mentality that we have to have there, because we're either at war or we're doing something that's in a dangerous capacity, that we need to do what we need to do and just forget about the world and just get that job done. Always about the mission.
Exactly. At the end of the day, you're just, gender doesn't play a role when you're trying to accomplish a mission. You're there to support each other. Now, there are men out there that might be old-fashioned, and they might say that a woman's place is not on the battlefield. Now, let me correct that, because women have not yet, the combat roles have not yet been opened up to women. Women have been in supportive roles since the establishment of, even the WACs in the military, like the women's the Army's nurse corps,
right,
and the WACs. Like those women kind of paved the way for what we're doing now. It's just opened up more opportunities for women to serve in different capacities other than medical or supplies.
right.
And so I want, and because you said something earlier, you said that the gender, like there's always been male and female. I just think a lot of people kind of take it out of context. Like we've always been there. We've always supported men at war, but now it's just the roles have been opened to allow women to serve in greater capacity. So the dynamic of the co-ed movement or phase that we had, been integrated like in that phase of time, it's just we've always been there, but this was a different movement of the co-ed environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The adapt, improvise, overcome. That's what we're trained to do. We're trained to adapt, to improvise, and overcome those challenges that even we face together as men and women serving right alongside each other together. Now, there's some. Sorry, I'll let you speak in 1 second.
Oh no! I have a. I was just chewing on something in my mouth. I'm like,
oh, okay. I was like, okay, together. Hold on.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Sorry for cutting you off with just the facial movement.
Well, I, as a woman, I do believe that we have different. There's only so many things that we can do as women. I don't believe that we should be straight in a combat role or on the front lines. In infantry, I don't necessarily agree that a woman should be right there because, like I said, men are protectors and they want to protect the women that they serve with as well. Now, there's some bad apples that we've had to serve with. There's some bad guys with ill intentions, but for the most part, a lot of the guys that, including you, that I'm happy to say that I'm so glad I got to serve alongside of you, because you are truly my brother's keeper.
Right. And I've gone into it, I've gone into it with a single parent home, which is my mom, which was the sole breadwinner in the house. And, I was a bad seed as a kid because I wanted to be very, very independent. And seeing what she went through and then seeing how she adapted as a woman, she adapted to both roles, to take me to baseball, do those things. I looked at it when we were in the military the same way. I was like, the women that are here are adapting, so give them the choices, the options to serve on whatever playing field they want to serve on, because they can do just women and men. I want to say when it comes to those roles and things like that, I don't want to say we're fully equal, but we are equal in strength and different things, because once you learn the system, it's the same knowledge that I have. Now it's what you do with that knowledge that makes you either move up on the ladder or not move up on the ladder. You know what I mean?
Exactly. No, and I agree. I agree that we as women, we're just as capable. Now, some not so capable as others, and this brings me back to what I said earlier. I don't think that we're well endowed to handle a true combat role, but opening up those opportunities to serve in a as close as possible to that, like I don't think G.I. Jane, when that movie came out, right as soon as me and my sister were going to join the Navy, that when that movie came out, man, that was like that opened up an image for women, especially for me and my sister, like, oh, we can do anything that we want. Now, granted, that's just a movie. The capacity and how a woman would be able to handle such a arduous training, like, hey, kudos to you if you could do that. But we were already tested in our abilities, because boot camp, it helps you. Like I said before, it breaks you down to build you back up into what I like to call super soldiers. We're made to be able to handle and sustain the pressures of military life.
Right.
Some maybe not so much, but you can only be strong for so long until you hit a breaking point. So, yes, I do agree that though we might be equal. God created both man and woman equal. We came out of Adam's rib, and so we were made to be partners with man and to help be their helpmeet. And so I agree that we can handle a lot of things, but then also there's an extent to that.
Yeah, I believe that too. I believe that there is an extent to that, but I also believe that options and choices should be, because we, right now in this world we're going through this abortion thing with women. I mean, I don't think it's anybody's choice to tell someone else that's a human being that has their own mind that they can't or cannot have this child or anything like that. And I feel the same way when it comes to the combat roles, the nursing roles, whatever roles are in the service. I think those options should be opened right from the get, right from the from the beginning. Hey, you want to be a Navy SEAL? It's available to you. You get it? Now it's your choice to say, you know what? I'm going to try that out. Oh, it's too hard. Oh, it's too easy, or whatever it may be. But that's your choice as a woman, and that gives you that ladder to climb to say, okay, this woman's just as equal as me, and she can be just like the captain that we had. She can be, pushing this boat forward, and she's leading all these men to whatever combat zone or whatever, and she's bringing them all back home alive. I think we all are capable of all that stuff. I think we're all capable of being that strong leader, woman or man, or any kind of gender that you decide to call yourself or whatever it is. But I feel that those opportunities should be given to you guys, not just, okay, it's like we're giving you morsels as a woman because you're a woman. That's just in my own opinion.
No, I understand, and I do, and I respect that, and I agree to a certain extent. Like, one of my favorite biblical scriptures comes from Philippians 4:19. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And for me to adapt that into like taking on a hefty role, like my mentality working in V2, not a lot of women can handle that life of launching aircraft and the hard hours and the toxicity and the poor morale that we were suffered with. I was one of very few females that stayed behind, and because there's a lot of them that left, they couldn't handle that kind of environment. And I agree. There should be options, and you shouldn't have to be limited. What you do with that choice, it should be your choice. God gave us free will, because for us, He didn't want to force upon us life or death. It's our choice. Now, if we choose not to accept Christ as Lord and Savior, that's your choice. You're going to face the end of that choice. My hope and prayer is that people make the right choice. And like you said, we should not interfere on people's choices. They should have the choice. Now, my hope and prayer is that they would make the right choice for them, what makes sense for them. But yes, I think that free will is so important because it's your life. You live it the way you want to live it. I hope and pray that you live it well.
Right.
And righteously, and that you would live a life that glorifies God is my hope and prayer. That you would do something with your life that brings purpose and fulfillment and adds value to someone else. Now, if you devalue or do something that only destroys or causes a negative reaction, okay, maybe we need to reevaluate that.
Right.
Your choices aren't the best, but I do agree. The whole deal. Elections are coming up. We all know, like, we're in a very political divide right now, and abortion is a hot topic. And while I may feel a little objective about abortion, I do feel like it's that person's choice whether they want to do that or not. So it's all about free will and the freedoms that we have. And this is why our lives as veterans become important, because it's the veteran that gave freedom of the press, freedom of speech. We went to battle for those rights. And that's why you can have those rights, because we fought for our country to have that.
Well, now that leads me into and I see that you're very passionate. You know, the way you speak, and you're very articulate with your speech. Did you have? I know you when we spoke in the beginning of the interview, you said, you know, your father was an influence. Your parents were influences. Your sister influenced also, because she was a big influence on you making the choice to join the service.
Yeah, she made the choice.
She made the choice first, right? So she influenced you. So my question would be, while serving in the service, did you have any mentors that you considered kind of like a father figure? Or I know we all considered each other brothers and sisters because we're serving and we're living together. But did you ever have somebody that just said, you know what, he reminds me of my father, and you got taken under the wing to be able to do your job to the utmost ability?
There might have been a few guys, like the old salty dogs that we called, you know, those guys that I loved and adored. You know, I mean, eventually they retired, but Petty Officer Fritz, he was such a cool guy. He was so laid back. Oh, Chief. Oh gosh, I forgot his name. He washed out of the Buds program and then came into V2. He was an amazing leader. I loved him. He was not about politics and bureaucratic, issues. He was like, get your job done and you're out of here. You're not sitting around waiting for other work centers to finish. Like, once you're done, you guys need to go and enjoy liberty. Bye. Chief was awesome, and I remember he came into V2 because he had washed out of the Buds program, because he went to challenge himself to become a SEAL. Unfortunately, he injured his knee. I think it was his knee or his ankle, some one of his lower extremities, and so then he came to our command. And then he had to ride out his career. So I think he was also just very, very upset. So that's probably, that's my guess anyway. That's probably why he was the way he was. Like, I'm not listening to anyone else. That you guys can go enjoy liberty on your,
That's funny.
Oh, go ahead.
No. You can finish. I was gonna say that we're at 30. We're at 30 minutes right now.
Oh,
and,
okay.
I got 3 more questions to hit you with.
Sure. Okay. I'll make this real quick. But he and a lot of what we call in the Navy salty dogs, those old men who've been around for years, ready to retire. Those are the best guys to be around. Best guys to be around.
They're the ones that hold your hand and teach you all the tricks and trade of tricks of the trade. I get it.
that thought of me as their daughters and just took me under their wing and took care of me.
And those are the good ones to have, because they actually are there to protect you, and they're actually there to make sure that you do everything correctly, and they want you to move up. They want you to challenge yourself to move up, become a supervisor, become head of the class, kind of way of thinking of things.
Well, I mean that potential was always there when I had my performance evaluations. That potential to move up and get promoted and be a good leader was always there. I mean, unfortunately, I never made it that far. I did rank, get promoted. I think you were promoted too that year, when every one of us made E4. The 1 year, it was the luck of the draw.
I think it was before. I think it was it after the September 11th happened?
No, this was in 2000.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because September 11th happened. I'm so lost in dates now, because everything's such a blur.
If 9/11 happened, I was already out by then. I was in the Orlando living with my dad by then on terminal leave, because I was waiting for my DD-214 when it happened.
Yeah, I was still on the ship, I think at that time the XO became the captain. Crocker had already left.
And
Uh,
well,
I think it was Ren, or was it the air boss? No, it was. I think
yeah,
it was Ren.
Captain Wren, I believe he took over.
Yeah, he took over. So, being that now that you're out and you're doing all these great things for us veterans, because I'm a veteran myself, everybody should know that, and the veterans out there in the real world, how did transitioning for you out of the Navy and the Air Force impact you both personally and professionally?
Personally, I felt lost and disoriented both times. I mean, when I left the Navy bitter and angry. I did not have my last 2 years there were just terrible, and I hated the Navy at one point in my life. And I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. After that, I had no sense of direction or purpose, and so I asked my dad if I can come and live with him while I try to figure out my life. And it was hard. I just couldn't relate to anyone my age. I was going on 22 years of age at that time, and I couldn't relate to anyone. I felt displaced, and from both services, because when 9/11 happened and I crossed over into the Air Force, I had a hard time adapting to the quality of life and the culture of the Air Force because I was Navy first, and there's a huge culture difference of, even though we wear the uniform and we serve together, the quality of life in the Air Force is so much better, and the people have more of an independent professional mindset, more than I told you what to do, so you do
Right.
it. And I have to say, trying to navigate life after the service, the transition assistance program is great. They offer a lot of information, but they throw so much information at you that you're just overwhelmed with it, and you're like, what do I do with all this information? Right? And so, like, you're still kind of like, you need someone to hold your hand as you navigate life, the next chapter of your life. And I just kind of had to learn on my own, and just figure it out. And it's hard when you're trying to figure it out and figure out what's out there. We didn't have nearly as many resources as we do now, and we're talking about, this was 20 years ago, because 9/11 happened like over 20 years ago, and even then, getting out, there was not nearly as much as we have now. So a lot of the things that we've faced as veterans, we've had to shift the political and the bureaucratic policy reformation, I should say, to help get those services in place and those programs in place to help enhance the quality of life for us when we get out, because it really is hard to adjust from a life that you said this in the beginning. We adapt to a structured way of living, and so when you don't have that structure anymore, you feel like, now what? Someone tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. And that's how we kind of carry. Now, if you have people around you who are mentors and can help you, plan, and give you a sense of direction, that's great. There's people who've gotten out of the military with a plan, but I wasn't one of those. So I kind of bopped around from place to place and job to job until I kind of eventually got into, now here I am, 20 years in federal service, as an administrative professional. But it's taken me a long time to kind of figure it out. But I think I could have gone a lot further in my life and my career if I had a sense of direction and purpose. And you kind of lose that mission when you get out.
But you said some great things there, because at the same time, what you're speaking and saying what you're saying, you're there advocating, and still you have ETS, which is a great support system for veterans that are having the same thoughts and the same process that you went through, and are still going through little by little, but you're still able to advocate through ETS and through other foundations for
Absolutely.
these veterans. So being that, I feel like you have overcome, from where me and you have come from in the service. I feel you have overcame a hell of a lot, and being able to overcome and then give your educational side of things and your encouragement to others is like you just did a whole 360. Now I say like this, we went into boot camp kind of like out of the cocoon. Boot camp put us back into the cocoon, and then they broke us out when we went out to the service field.
Yeah, pretty
And now we're here, and I want to say it this way because we're now beautiful butterflies, because we're able to teach from our experiences to others
how to
that
thrive.
haven't, yeah, how to thrive. They haven't been through it yet, so now it's like kind of giving them a one up. We can tell them, I don't think that's good, or yeah, that's great. Maybe you should go in that path. You can do this, but you're advocating to a generation of people. Not even one generation of people, it's a bunch of generations of people, because I know you probably have some Vietnam veterans that do come for your services and help through ETS. That's another thing I wanted to ask. Through the ETS that you came up with, from the inception of ETS, you've helped veterans. Have you come across any veterans that were along the same lines as you, and you were able to help them a little bit better and get better results? Or are they all the same? Or are they all on the same playing field?
No, that's the beauty of our community, is that each person is different. My first example, like one person, she thought she wanted to go and get a job, and then she ended up like, no, I'm going to go into my own business. So we pivoted. I did, from doing her resume, which I did her resume, but we pivoted from that, and then helped her launch her own business, and now that's what she's doing. She's thriving and doing great. And I was like, oh, I love that. So it really just depends on the veteran and what their needs are. And, and there's something I wanted to kind of backtrack, because you helped me 3 years ago. I don't know if you understand the impact of how you helped me navigate, even in my own transition and adjustment period, especially moving from California to the Midwest. When I in 2020, in the beginning of the year, this was right before COVID, when I suffered a severe trigger, and I didn't know the situation I embarked upon was going to trigger me. I had no idea what a trigger meant until it happened to me. And you helped me get out of my head. You helped me to really, you pulled me out of the pit that I was in. I'll never forget that night. You were up late, and I couldn't sleep, but my body was in a hypervigilant state for 3 full days. My body wouldn't stop shaking, and I was struggling. And you, being able to, have that phone conversation with you and have you just be my battle buddy was like life-changing. It was a lifesaver, literally throwing me out a lifesaver, while I'm drowning, and holding on to it for dear life, hoping I don't sink.
And it's an honor. It was an honor, and it's always going to be an honor for that, because at the same time that you say, you might not know that you made this impact. You also made the impact on me, because we are battle buddies, and being that you were going through something, I might have been going through something at that moment too, that having this conversation with you helped me out of it. It might have not have been shown like full facade, because you had maybe more of a impactful, something that was going on with you that was more impactful, but there might have been something going on with me, and you helped me through it too. And you always help me through it every time we talk. And that's what we're there for. And this is the great thing. This is the great thing that I want the audience to understand about having joined the military on a voluntary basis, that we created this bond of people that are lifelong friends, and they weren't even kids together,
Right?
but they became lifelong friends, like they were kids together in the same neighborhood and knew the same parents. And that's the great thing of the community that, and I want to say that the government has built, but we have built inside what they have built.
Yeah, we made it better.
I have one last question, and then we can shut it down. But I thank you so much for even being here and giving me your time to take part in this project with me.
Yeah, I
So
thank you.
so I know your experiences. I know your experiences in the Navy has shaped parts of you and the way you think of things. But how life is going, we're looking from the inside out, and sometimes we're looking from the outside in
Hmm.
of in our life. How has, from the time you joined the service through all this time that you're sitting here now, how has those experiences changed your perspective of life, not your life, but just life in general? And what are your goals moving forward? So it's
Well,
like two questions in one.
well, you know what? Our first deployment when we went on Westpac, and when we went to the Jabal Ali in Dubai, when we went to the Middle East, and then embarked on what is it, Operation Desert Fox and Operation Southern Watch, and supporting the no-fly zone in Southern Iraq. That became such. I'll never forget what it like, that experience. I came back to America with the thought, like, I have no right to complain. I will never complain again. I am a rich American compared to everybody else in this world. Like,
And why was that? Why was that thought process in your mind?
because just the when you get to see how the other side of the world operates, we're talking about these countries, especially centered around the Middle East. They're war-torn countries, so all they know is war and poverty and brokenness, and they don't know any other kind of life, and so here in America, we could sleep in peace, we could eat pizza, we can eat burgers and get fat to our heart's content. But there, it's the life, the culture, the difference, and um as Americans, we're spoiled. The freedoms that we have are um they they're so we're rich. Just the things that I mean, I'm not a millionaire by any means, and I hope to be someday. But the life that we live as Americans is we have the upper hand. It's like when you're playing poker and someone has the upper hand, they're going to win the game regardless. And that's how it is. Like, I have no right to complain about anything because somebody else has it much worse. And that experience, being on deployment, and us, getting to be a part of that combat theater and experiencing, this is why we're trained to do what we do. And war is an ugly thing. I wouldn't wish it on any country, but it's unfortunate. Even in Bible times, there was savage times in the Bible as well. People went to war for reasons, for multiple reasons, power, land, control, getting the upper hand and resources, and living. And so war is ugly, but it's necessary when we're wanting to make a change that only war can be gained as a result.
The necessary evil.
But yeah, that's basically what it is, necessary evil.
Right.
You can't have good without the bad.
Right. You can't have light without the darkness, and that's the story of this earth and this world that we live in. I mean, there's always white and black, and they always teach you no gray in between. Well, Marilyn, I really thank you for all your insight. Why don't you let the audience know where they can find you, and if they need any resources or advocacy from you, where they can go and get those resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to all those who are listening to this. We appreciate you. And if you are a veteran or you're a loved one that supports the veteran community, please don't hesitate to share. You can find me at echotangosierra.com. I help veterans with their career development in the next chapter of their life with resumes, job coaching, and as a mental health advocate, resources and moral support in case you need it and you don't want to go to the VA. There's a whole other world of support and resources outside of the VA that you can get. We're here for you, and for those who are not veterans, and for those who have who know someone that might have served. We appreciate you too, because we would not be or do what we do without our families and our friends and our communities, because it really does take a community to help each other thrive. And so we wouldn't be able to do what we do without our community. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you. Hope to see you again real soon.
And this has been a conversation with Marilyn Richards and Anthony Rivera, and this is for a student project for Miami-Dade College. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you. And now, a word from our sponsor.